Good evening. Thank you all for joining the PTSA's general meeting for October. My name is Sing Lathan. I am your co-president this year for the New Rochelle High School PTSA. I want to bring in my executive board to introduce themselves. Mary Monzo, co-president.
Michelle, communication. I'm Carrie Fox, Schechter, and I'm secretary.
Hi, I'm Kristen Smith, co-chair of membership.
I'm Dr. Ajala Akru. I am one of the co-chairs of the Ways and Means Committee, and Kelly Woodruff is still tonight, so she can see with us. She is the co-chair also of Ways and Means.
Thank you. This is our executive team. This is your executive team of New Rochelle High School. So the New Rochelle High School PTA is a strong voice for all children, a relevant resource for families and communities, and a strong advocate for the education and well-being of every child. We want every student here at New Rochelle High School to have the best and available options for college, career, and life during and after school. The PTSA has been working closely with administration to ensure there are equitable and collective initiatives throughout the school. Tonight, we have Dr. Artiles, our principal, in the building. We have Dr. Joyner, assistant superintendent, and we have our Board of Education member, Mr. Akanu. Sorry. My apologies. Since September, the PTSA has hosted and welcomed back Teacher Appreciation Breakfast and the Senior Sunrise, and we've sponsored the Homecoming Pep Rally with our very own DJ, Smithy Boy. The general PTSA meeting in September, we were able to get to know our principal a lot more and our vice principal. And lastly, the PTSA spoke at Meet the Teacher Night, and we welcomed new parents and ninth graders. Our student volunteers actually hosted our table and sold apparel and memberships. So we need all of you guys to keep volunteering. That was great. Our upcoming events this year are the New Rochelle High School ACTs at 7:45 a.m. on this Saturday. October 22nd, we have Theater Works at the New Rochelle High School Arts Festival. At 12, we have the Venti on the veranda, Wappyville Starbucks. 5:30 p.m. the Sledding Hill Stage Reading LEK Theater. October 23rd, we have Paid Performance Dance Festival in the Whitney Auditorium from 3 to 5. October 31st, we have our Halloween costume party. The details, we'll be sharing that shortly. We'll send that out. November 9th, from 7 p.m., there's an online safety presentation hosted by Ward PTAs. But registration is required, but I think everybody will appreciate that type of safety information. A little more housekeeping. November 16th, we have a PTA meeting. The topic is freshman guidance info night. November 17th is New Rochelle High School Theater Works drama presentation in this theater, the Linda Kelly, at 7 p.m. November 19th, we have the New Rochelle Fund for Education Excellence Pancake Breakfast at 8 a.m. in House 4, which is right here. Theater Works Drama has another presentation here at 2 p.m. and at 7 p.m. on that November 19th. And then there's also Thanksgiving Day Parade. Lastly, December 6th, there's another PTA meeting, and the topic is the Sophomore Guidance Info Night. I will pass it on to our senior committee chair.
Hi, we haven't done much with it yet other than did the senior sunrise breakfast, but there's a sign up form outside. We'd love to have more members. We really want to hear from the students. What events they would like to host. We were considering a movie night, something fun, maybe a dance after school before the prom, something like that. But we'd really like to hear from everybody and want your opinion. So students and parents alike, please sign up. We want to do the signs on North Avenue again. So we're going to fundraise for that. We have to come up with a different system because the fence is shot. And we're going to do the yard signs again as a fundraiser. New fence, yeah. So please sign up, the form's out front, and we'll start meeting separately so we can start planning some fun events. And while I'm up here, I'll touch on Spirit Wear. We have our in-house Spirit Wear, which is the class t-shirts, which are $10, and the hoodies, which are $30. We also have magnets and phone wallets for sale, and stadium blankets, which are $35. And we accept cash or credit debit. Oh, and we just closed our pop-up store. So if you ordered from the pop-up store, it closed on October 9th. The delivery should start coming to you directly to your house the first week of November. And we made about $2,000 on that.
Last night, the guidance department shared and hosted a financial aid night, which was very popular, and we'll be sharing that to all the members in email soon, and also this presentation as well. And then we have our, let me see, we have our treasurer report. Year to date income, well, we sold a $25 Black Ballerina's book. We had Missy Copeland last year. And so we have more books for sale for Christmas. So if you need a book, we have them. We have Spirit Wear that we sold. We made $730. Memberships, we have a total of 125 members so far, not counting today. That brought in $1,625, and for a total of $2,380 that we've made this year so far. Our current bank balance is $27,339.
Hey, if I promise to be really loud, can you hear me okay? These microphones are so intimidating. We need your support for the PTSA, and you need your support for the PTSA. PTSA does tons of great things, like bring you together tonight to tell you about how to support your students. If you're like me and you always feel just like a little bit clueless about everything, the PTSA is great because it connects you to all kinds of information. For $15, you join for the whole year, and you can sign up outside after this event if you haven't yet. If you have already joined, thank you. That's awesome. Get a friend to join. And after you join tonight, get another friend to join, and we'll be all set. It does not, we're glad for you to volunteer, and we can find lots of things for you to do if you want that. But joining the PTSA does not obligate you to volunteer. So no obligation, but plenty of opportunity. And the PTSA supports, like I said, tons of great things for students, programs, awards, like the senior sunrise breakfast, like all kinds of fun stuff for that, for kids to make New Rochelle even better if that's possible. So a great program that New Rochelle, the PTSA helps support, you're gonna hear about right now. So.
Greetings again. I am the co-chair of the Ways and Means Committee, and I am so excited to tell you very briefly about the new Kernels program. For anyone that had a student at ALMS, you may remember that we had a very popular Popcorn Friday program going on there. Last year, we raised over $17,000 once a week, not every week. Because of COVID, we sold popcorn. We popped about 1,000 bags and sold $700 to $1,000 worth of popcorn every week that we sold popcorn. And we want to bring that program here, but here we want to make it even bigger and more wonderful by including an entrepreneurship program. So not only will we sell popcorn here, but we will teach all of the students about the world of entrepreneurship and building this program from the ground up. I'd love to tell you more, but we don't have much time. So I ask that if you are interested in any way in finding out more about the program, you don't have to promise to volunteer, but if you are thinking about it in any way, if you're curious, please sign up. There's both a QR code outside and a physical sign-up form, and we'll make sure you get more information about the program. And then if you'd like to volunteer, we will contact you to do that. Thank you so much.
Presentation by the guidance department from our new director of counseling and guidance, Ms. Leah Clayton.
Hello, good evening. I'm going to take this off. Hi, everybody. Ms. Lugovina Freitas, you can call me Ms. Freitas, new Director of Guidance. I see some familiar faces from last night. Thank you for venturing out for a second night in a row. I appreciate that, and some new faces. I didn't do anything introductory last night, but I feel I have to tell a little bit about myself. Quickly, I'm the mother of two beautiful children. My son Antonio is in his first year of college at Penn State studying musical theater. That was an interesting journey getting my son there. If you have any questions, you have any students going to musical theater, come see me. My daughter is in her third year of law school. Thank goodness. It's been a struggle, but she made it, and she's at Tulane. She graduated from New Paltz, SUNY New Paltz, and I'm a graduate of CUNY, Queens College, and I did my administration at Stony Brook, so I am a public school university proud graduate. I have 25 years in education, 10 years in administration, 15 years as a school counselor. I'm a school counselor through and through. I don't see myself doing anything else but being a director of guidance, a school counselor. So that's a little bit about my story. I'm so thrilled to be joined by 3 members of our guidance department tonight. I didn't have to beg them too much to come tonight. We have Mr. Zimmerman, give him a hand. Ms. Mayor. I'm not saying houses, but I can come through still. And Ms. Herzog, who has her own house. She's our college and career counselor, and we are very, very fortunate to have her. She's amazing. And they will be presenting tonight with me. Thank goodness. Okay, so what are you going to come away with tonight? So you're going to learn how to work with your school counselor. I'm hoping that that has happened. If it hasn't, please reach out to your school counselor. This is an imperative relationship during this process. This process, as you probably already know, can get a little overwhelming and complicated, particularly if your student is going to a specialty field, such as my son, who went into musical theater. It's a little complicated. My daughter, Sophia, played sports at the college level. So her process was also very different. So everybody's processes can be very, very different. How to support your students to develop their own voices is crucial. This is really, really important. So as 11th and 12th graders, I didn't ask, I didn't take a poll. How many 11th graders do we have in the audience? Okay, great. And how many 12th graders? It's like okay, all right. So we have like a 50-50. So kudos to the 11th grade families who are here today. Certainly come back next year. You cannot hear this information too many times and things do change. I appreciate you coming out early and getting this information early. I would actually, as I said this last night, I would actually invite 9th graders to this presentation and 10th graders, but I would be fearful that we would run out of space. I don't think it's too early to get this stuff. But supporting your students develop their own voice, very, very important when your student goes to college. Colleges do not want to hear from parents. They only will hear from the students. So we have to start, having our students take more initiative, even, making phone calls, asking questions. So those are skills that we really have to start helping our students develop. What admissions programs you will use to apply to college, such as early action, early decision, rolling, regular decision. How to use Naviance when applying to colleges. One of the goals in our guidance department is to get our students to start using Naviance earlier. I know some of our students are using it in the middle school, but start getting them consistently using it in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade so they become very familiar with it early. And then resources that we're going to provide for you. Okay, where are you in the process? So if you were Dr. Joyner, or if I were Dr. Joyner, not if you were Dr. Joyner, if I were Dr. Joyner, she would have you turn and talk to one another, to find someone who you do not know and start talking about what your experience has been during this process. But we're not going to do that tonight. That's not the purpose of this evening. It probably will turn into a therapy session where you hear, he hasn't done anything. She doesn't want to talk to me about anything, right? So we get it. It is different for everybody. I know, I think I was blessed, honestly, because, you know, you get what you need. My students, my son and my daughter were pretty self-sufficient in this process. I don't know why, maybe because they heard me talking about it for their entire lives. That could be. But look at this checklist, see what you can check off. Hopefully you can check off the majority of things. If you can't, you know, there's no right or wrong in this process, but, you know, just do kind of like a self-check and see where you need to be, all right? And without further ado, I believe it's Ms. Herzog.
Good evening, everybody. So take a deep breath. This is not as difficult to process as everybody thinks it is. If you're just a little bit organized and you understand the terminology of what's going on. So this is really the component of the college application process. And as we said, it's not just about your test scores and it's not just about your grades. One word you're going to hear a lot in this particular business of college applications is the word, we look at your student holistically. You're going to hear it almost all the time at any college information session that you go to. What does that mean? Well, it means that they take into account many different areas in evaluating the student. So for example, course selection. What courses did your student take during their high school career? Did they challenge themselves? And it doesn't have to be that a student looks the same next to the student sitting over there. It's how they challenge themselves in their own coursework. Did they take the hardest courses that they could take as that individual student? No. And then the other word you're going to hear in this process is rigor. What is the rigor of the courses? Is it AP? Is it honors? Is it college level courses? Of course, grades, transcripts, and GPA do count. Absolutely. We send the transcript to each of the schools that your students apply to, that they ask us to send. And that is evaluated differently at every school. There is no way of figuring it out. Some will look at it just as it's presented. Some schools will take all the grades and make their own, depending on the level of the course and the grade level. Some schools will do a hybrid. But that is certainly one of the main areas that they evaluate. But they also evaluate, what did your students do while they were here in high school? Or while they were in high school period? Now, obviously, our students had to deal with the pandemic. And the colleges understand that. The colleges are taking into account, like, you might not have done every extracurricular activity that you could do. You might not have been able to do every sport you could do. But did you babysit? Did you tutor a younger sibling? Did you have to take care of an older grandparent? Those things count in terms of activities. And a lot of students forget that. It's everything. It's everything that a student does outside of school or outside of the school day that should be included in that activity list. Beyond that, there's the dreaded college essay. I say this to students all the time. If you get your college essay out of the way, the rest of it's pretty easy. It's really not that hard. And so, you know, many students will procrastinate. Fortunately, we have many English teachers in for the seniors who work on the college essay in their classroom senior year. But there are prompts on the college applications that can start the process of deciding what to write about. There is also pretty much the student can write about anything they want. But it can be no more than 650 words, and it should be the student's voice, not their parents, not somebody else, the student's voice. But that being said, it needs to be proofread carefully by many people. and right by somebody who doesn't know that student very well to see if it jumps off the page. If you get a picture, a snapshot of that student. Beyond the essay, there are interviews, although what I'll say is, at this point, most colleges and universities do not do evaluative interviews. The ones that do evaluative interviews are mainly the high-end Ivy League, some of the, what we call the first-tier schools. Beyond that, most colleges and universities will do interviews really as informational, just to get to know the student better. It won't impact one way or another the application process. But the only piece of that is, sometimes when a student visits the school, it's not a bad idea to request an interview with an admissions counselor, because then they'll have a face with a name when they get that application. When we run our college visits here, many students get to meet college advisors who might read their application, and it just makes it more personal. Counselor and teacher recommendations, that is an important piece here. We ask the students to ask their teachers nicely and give them plenty of time to prepare. Their own counselors will write a recommendation for each student. And I'm going to discuss it a little bit more in a moment, because I'm going to show you something we asked them to fill out. Beyond that, and the other thing I'm going to talk about in a moment after, is standardized test scores. And that's become more of a balancing act than it has ever been in the past. But we're going to go into that a little bit more deeply. So I was saying we ask the students to fill out something for their counselors so that the counselors can write a really good recommendation for their students. It's called the student autobiography. And the counselors will have different ways, different counselors have different ways for the students to submit. But it's really important for the students to submit this to their counselor, because then the counselor really has the opportunity to really put in a very well put together letter for that student. Now, on the personal things this counselor may not know about the student. Beyond that, we also have the parent brag sheet. We ask the parents to say some things about the student, again, so the counselor can add it to their letter. Standardized tests, ACTs and SATs. So this has changed. This has changed a lot with the pandemic, and from my personal regard, for the better. You're going to hear that about, I would say 95% of schools in this country have gone what's called test optional, meaning students get to choose now whether they want to submit an ACT or an SAT. And what does that mean? So it really means that if the scores your student gets help their profile academically, meaning that they've done well on the test, it comes out somewhere in the middle of what that school looks for, then they should send them. But if it doesn't happen, and to be honest, I was a terrible test taker, and in my day, that's all it was about. And I know so many kids who are great students and terrible test takers. The schools have really said, and I've listened and I've asked these questions over the last 3 years. They really mean it when they say, if it is not going to help your application, don't send your test scores. They just will not count it. It just won't be part of the evaluation of that student. And this goes up to the very top of the Ivy Leagues. They are all test optional. Now, occasionally there's a program at a school that they say they need test scores. Often that is engineering, nursing, those very, very math, science oriented programs. But again, not very often. So the biggest thing to do is to really research that individual school and what they're saying. And just so you see, these are links for all of the different tests. One other thing, if you want to find out what a mid-range score is at a particular school, College Board has evaluations on it. And it's a very good information as to where your student might fall with their scores, because every school is going to be different. So this is the screen that messes people up all the time in these definitions of deadlines. So deadlines in the college process are probably the most important piece of this process, knowing and understanding those deadlines. So the first one is early decision. What does that mean? Early decision is a binding agreement. This means that your student, you, and the counselor sign the application saying, my student will go to your school if they get accepted. Now, I know there's a lot of information out there that says, oh, if I don't get enough financial aid, I can rescind that acceptance. Actually, that's not generally true. Generally, if you've said, my kid will go, it doesn't matter what the financial aid is. You get nothing, it still doesn't matter. Some schools will allow you to rescind, but they're very rare. They're very rare. The bottom line is this is a binding agreement. So I always use the example of what a admissions officer said. If you believe the color of that school and you know you can afford it, go for ED. Otherwise, let's talk about early action. So I always tell the kids, early action is my happy dance. I would be very straightforward. I made my own two children who graduated New Rochelle High School 10 and 15 years ago to do everything early action. Now, it's for the seniors, if they're not ready to do this, getting a little close. Early action is non-binding. Students can apply to many, many schools early action. And those dates are usually November 1st, November 15th, December 1st. And they will hear early, you will hear early, some of that stress will be taken away. Plus, the biggest advantage is that often there's more scholarship money and more financial aid available when students apply to early action. On top of that, the student and you do not have to commit to a school until May 1st. So it gives you all time to evaluate all the acceptances, evaluate all the financial aid packages without the pressure of only one school and one decision. Now, there's one caveat to that. Some of the very high-end schools, in Harvard, Yale, and Notre Dame are the ones that particularly come to mind, have done something called restricted early action and done away with early decision. In that instance, they can only apply to one private university. Early action, not binding. So they could only apply to Harvard, they can only apply to Yale or Notre Dame. They can also apply to public schools like Binghamton or University of Michigan. So the reason they did this is because they understood that some students really could not commit to early decision and could not commit to saying, can't decide to go someplace like this wonderful school without knowing how much money. So those are the two that confuse most people. Regular admissions is just a hard deadline, application deadline. Typically January, well, they've moved it off of January 1st. It's usually January 2nd, January 3rd, January 4th. For many schools, the SUNYs are typically January 15th. CUNYs are February 1st. They are the hard deadlines that by that point, you need to get the applications in. So we really ask, and I'm going to say this for my counselors here, please have your kids have all their stuff to their counselors before Christmas, so that they're not spending their entire Christmas vacations working on this. And finally, rolling decision. A rolling is where the school doesn't have a hard deadline. It doesn't really make you send in the application at any particular time, but the longer a student waits, the less scholarship money and the less financial aid that is available. So our suggestion typically is that students should really apply by January, February at the latest. Sometimes there are extenuating circumstances and you need to apply in March and in April. These schools can allow you to do that. And they have to talk to their counselors with their deadlines. Thank you, and I'm going to call up Claire Mayer for the next section.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us here tonight. Okay, so going through the college checklist. So we want to make sure, Ms. Herzog made reference to the importance of really being organized in this whole process, and I think that's why sometimes students and families get stressed out, right, if you're not organized. But some important things to keep in mind as you're thinking about the college checklist is the list of schools you're applying to. So we typically recommend students apply to about 10 schools and make sure you have a really balanced list of schools that are, we used to call them safeties, nothing safety anymore, but really likely schools, target schools, and then maybe some niches. So that's important to keep in mind. Something else, what are the deadlines, right? That's very important because you need to make sure that the students get their applications in before the deadlines. You don't want to wait till the last minute and have the computer application crash, and that creates a lot of additional stress. What admissions plan are you applying for? So Ms. Herzog just talked about the different admissions plans. So the early decision, early action, regular decision, and then rolling admissions. And what applications are you using? So the most commonly used application is called the Common App. It's used or accepted by over 900 schools. So it's very likely that students will be applying the Common Application. And the nice thing about that is you're putting in your information once. Some schools might ask some additional questions, but it makes it easier rather than filling out multiple applications. Additionally, if students are only applying to SUNYs, then we often recommend them just to use the SUNY application. And then the CUNY application, so the City University of New York, they do have a separate application. There are several CUNY schools that are on the Common Application, but not many. So if students are using the CUNY or applying to CUNYs, then they'd be doing the CUNY application, and they are able to apply to 6 CUNYs for $65. We want to make a plug for this year. This is the first time I've ever heard that the SUNY system is offering 2 weeks. So it's October 24th to November 6th, where students can apply to up to 5 SUNY campuses for free. So that's a savings of $250 because each SUNY application is $50. So really, we don't want to rush students in this process, but that is something to keep in mind to be able to save some money on the application fees. Additionally, you want to know, does your college require an essay? Most four-year universities do require one personal statement. Does your school require supplemental questions? So some schools will, in addition to the personal statement, will ask other questions, such as, why us? Why do you want to go to Cornell? And then you have to really talk about the specific programs, the professors, the activities. Why, do you see that campus as being a really good fit for you? I saw recently a supplemental question that asked the students to indicate at this school, they have all freshmen read the same book. Which book would you recommend that all freshmen read and why? So it's really getting, at the students and thinking about their literary interests and how they want to discuss that with their peers on their campus. Does your program require portfolio. So Ms. Freitas, talked about her experience with her son going through applying for musical theater. If your child is applying to any arts program, then there could be a portfolio. We are lucky to have a fantastic arts program here, and they do get help from PAVE in that aspect, including doing a portfolio day. Is that November 4th, where students actually get to work with admissions counselors from various arts programs, that they come in and review the portfolio. So what a wonderful opportunity to get feedback, right, early on, and then hopefully by the time they're a senior, then they'll really have their portfolio all put together. Okay, so the college applications procedures. So one important thing is after students fill out the common application is they do have to match it with Naviance. So I know it was always a little bit confusing, but I encourage all students to go to your counselor and get some help if you need that. When we had our senior meeting, we also provided instructions. But basically you're applying through Common App, but then you need to connect it with your Naviance account because all of the documents that the counselors are sending, the teacher recommendations, your transcript, the school reports, those are all going through Naviance. So it needs to be connected to your common application. And as it was mentioned before, the teacher recommendations go through Naviance, but it's really important that the students ask in person if the teacher is willing to write a letter of recommendation. If they say yes, you say, thank you. What do you need from me? The guidance department does have a teacher recommendation form that we've created. So some teachers like you to use that. Other teachers have their own specific form. So you really want to find out what does the teacher want, get it into them in a timely fashion. And then always say thank you. That's very, very important. If the teacher says, no, they're not able to, it's okay, right? Then you're going to want to think about asking for another teacher recommendation. On the Common App, okay, we are an Naviance school, so you are not inviting your teachers on the Common App. You are inviting them on Naviance. This will hopefully make sense to many of the students out there who are working on it. The same thing, you're inviting your counselor, your counselor will do it on Naviance. You're not inviting them on the Common application. And then something just to add, now once you get accepted into schools, it also is, I think, very nice to share that news with the people who wrote your letters of recommendation and to say thank you. I think that's much appreciated, right? Because our teachers, they're not given time to write letters of recommendation. They just do it because they're really trying to support their students in this process. Okay, the transcript request form. So this is a very important document in the whole college application process. So we counselors do ask students to at least 3 weeks in advance to give us a completed transcript request form. That really helps us manage our time, right, as we're finishing up the letters of recommendation and gathering all the documents to submit to colleges. So on the form, we need to know the name of the school, what type of application, when is the deadline, what's your admission plan, right? So mention if you're applying early decision, the counselors do have to sign off saying that we've talked to you about the fact that it's a binding agreement. Are you submitting your standardized test scores? If you are submitting your standardized test scores, students be sure to check to see if the college requires that the scores be submitted directly from either the College Board for the SAT or from the ACT, because that is actually your responsibility. We can't access those scores and send them, so that's the responsibility of the student, so that's important. And you want to do that in advance. Even though it's happening electronically, it does take several weeks for the College Board or ACT to get them and for the colleges to receive it. And then with the teacher recommendations, we really ask students to just ask up to 2 teachers, and typically not more than that. Some colleges only accept 1 teacher letter recommendation. The most popular college that only accepts 1 is Binghamton, but others also only accept 1. So when you fill out your transcript request form, you want to rank order on the back of the form, teacher 1, teacher 2. So teacher 1 is the teachers whose recommendation letter is gonna go to Binghamton or any of the schools that only accept one letter. And then teacher two would be the teacher that goes, you know, to any schools that will accept more than one letter of recommendation. Okay, and then some schools, so we're sending your transcript to all, you know, the colleges. Some schools also ask you to actually self-report your classes you took and grades. So this is kind of a tedious process. I always recommend, if the colleges do ask, that the students get a hard copy of their transcript and just go line by line and make sure that those are entered correctly. Okay, so just so everyone is kind of familiar with what a New Rochelle High School transcript looks like. So some things you'll notice. You notice on the transcript that this has some courses from the middle school. So some of our courses, some courses that students take in middle school are considered high school level. And so those grades and Regents scores, or E's for the Regents exemption, do appear on the high school transcript. And you'll see the credits, some other important things you'll see on the bottom of this transcript. You see the unweighted and the weighted grade point average. So students are typically submitting their weighted grade point average to colleges, although as was mentioned earlier, colleges will take the transcript and kind of do what they want to do to use to figure out their evaluation of the student. But you do see this, you know, this student took, you know, AP US History, has the grade, you know, the Regents score, AP Biology, Principles of Marketing. So you're seeing some, you know, rigor in the advanced placement classes on this transcript, and went on to take some more rigorous classes during their senior year as well. So I encourage you, you know, those of you who are seniors, obviously, you know, we've given you a copy of your transcript. For those juniors, it's a good idea, either in home access or from your counselor, to get your transcript and just take a look, and you'll see how you are progressing. All right. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Zimmerman.
All right, so we're gonna slightly switch gears here. I know we've been talking about the four-year college process, but not everybody is gonna be going to a four-year college, or may not go right away, right? So the process for community college is typically a little bit simpler, right? You don't need letters of recommendation, you don't need an SAT or ACT score, right? You don't need a college essay. Really what it comes down to is, did you do the application and make sure that your counsel sent your transcript? Now, there is a little bit of an asterisk with this, because certain programs require a little bit more, right? Typically the more competitive type of programs. So for example, at Westchester Community College, nursing requires you to take the TEAS exam before you get into their actual nursing program. So some people wanna go to community college and still have the opportunity to go away. So there are a bunch of campuses across New York State and obviously other states where you can dorm at community colleges. So it is first come, first serve in regards to dorming. So you got to make sure that you get your application in for dorming early. Another thing that we actually wanted to highlight at Westchester Community College is the Honors College. It's a very small and exclusive program that has free tuition if you are accepted. So really good resource if you end up going to Westchester. Now, why would someone look at community college, right? It could be that you're maybe not ready for a four-year school. You were not necessarily getting the grades that you wanted in high school, and you want to have an opportunity to get your grades up and get into some four-year schools that, you know, you wouldn't get into out of high school, right? Another reason is the affordability of community college. So just some nice options for you there. Now, the earlier you apply, the earlier you get registered for your classes. So I think that's the theme across the process, is get things done early. Now, we also realize that not everybody at New Rochelle High School that graduates is gonna go on to college, or may not go on to college right away, right? So we wanted to highlight a couple opportunities for students here. So the first thing is apprenticeships, right? So if you're interested in the trades, apprenticeships are a really good option, because you'll learn a skill and you'll get paid to do it. And if you do well in your apprenticeship, the company or organization that sponsors you may keep you on and hire you after, right? We have the AmeriCorps. So AmeriCorps is an opportunity where you volunteer. There are locations across the United States. So there's a couple regional centers. You live there, you get a stipend, and you really get an opportunity to get some new experiences and kind of expand your horizon. We have Job Corps. Job Corps is a program that you can apply to where you have like career-based training. They typically feature some upcoming fields, so you'll get training in those. There is an income requirement with that, and that also has many locations across the United States where you're able to experience new things. We also have The Chief, which is a newspaper that highlights opportunities across New York State, really well-paying jobs for students. We have civil service and through Westchester County and through New Rochelle, right? Some students are looking to get into careers after high school, right? And you may want a job where you can get benefits, have career advancement. So it's good to look at these. And then Indeed, a little bit simpler, but you may just be looking for a job while you figure some things out. So that's a resource for that. We also have the armed forces. I've had several students in my time at New Rochelle that have gone into the armed forces, right? Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, right? So what I would encourage any student in here that's interested in any of these armed forces is to connect with a local recruiter. There's recruitment offices throughout Westchester and through New York City. And I think it would be good for you to sit down and have a conversation with them to see kind of what life would be like if you join the military. It's a 4-year commitment, obviously. So once you get a little bit more into the process, if you do decide that you're interested in being recruited, you'd have to take the ASVAB, which is basically a standardized test within the military. The better you do on it, the more opportunities you're going to have. Certain branches have minimum requirements for that test, right? I do know I actually participated in a workshop for the Marines. I went down to Parris Island about 4 or 5 years ago, and I got to see kind of the day in the life of Marine recruits. And one thing I did notice in conversating with a lot of the Marines is a lot of them had degrees. And that's because you can take online courses. There's a lot of accredited institutions that you can take online courses through while you serve. We also get into ROTC, right? And this is programs that are featured at different colleges. Different colleges offer different forms of ROTC. A college may offer Army ROTC, Navy, etc., right? And the opportunity for this is that you learn, you get an education, and you also go through their program. So when you enlist and you join, you are higher up, you're at the officer level, right? There are ROTC scholarships that actually you're not necessarily guaranteed it, but you're eligible to apply for scholarships that can cover your full room, board, and tuition. So really good opportunity for those of you that are interested in the military, want to get a college education, and get a little bit of head start in your military career. Lastly, we get into the military academies, right? West Point is an example, right? There's other ones at Annapolis. And the college admissions process is a little bit different for this, right? So we talk a lot of, obviously, you've been working your whole high school career when you get into the college process, but you want to start this process if you're interested in the academies during your junior year, right? So you do a preliminary application, and then you need a letter of nomination from either your congressman, your senator, or the vice president in order to, so good luck with that one. But, it's difficult to get it, so you want to take your time in getting ahead in that, right? And then once you do that, right, there's more steps to the process. There's interview, there's a health exam, and there's also a physical assessment. So if you are interested in that, definitely connect with your counselor and let them know early. Now, lastly, it's some sort of a reminder or wrap up here, right? So we showed the autobiography before. If I have any students in here, I'm waiting on some of yours to write your letter of recommendation. So feel free to get that to me through Google Classroom, right? Short reference forms, you could get those in the house office. Counselors will look at these if you want to get one from a coach or a club advisor or someone that knows you. We will sometimes reference what they say in our letters, right? So feel free to give us those. Every counselor has been meeting with students, as specifically seniors, individually. So if you haven't heard from your counselor, check your email, go and see them, right? Because we want to help you through this process. Big thing, check your email. I always remind my students, when you've actually applied to colleges, Colleges have a lot of follow-up via email. I have students that are like, I haven't heard from this school, I haven't heard from this school. And there'll be an acceptance just waiting in their inbox. So definitely check that. I know we had financial aid last night, so I won't go too much into that. I'm sure it'll be posted somewhere, the link to what happened yesterday. But FAFSA, TAP, if you stay in New York State, CSS profile for some private schools, get that done early. Because, you know, some schools have deadline and there's only so much money to give, so you want to make sure that you get a piece of the pie, right? And then the last thing I want to highlight here is just continue to do well during your senior year, right? You don't get to senior year and get to slack off, right? You got to follow things through. Colleges will look at your grades through your senior year. So, and we specifically, we send them on the mid-year. You may have colleges that ask us for first quarter grades, right? And if you're in that boat, then you gotta let your counselor know so we can send them.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, counselors, you're amazing. I couldn't do this without you. You can take tomorrow off. Dr. Silver, just kidding. All right, so a couple of things. I just want to thank the PTSA. Thank you so much for working with me, for reaching out to me from the beginning, welcoming me my first week. I love doing this with you. I think this is a wonderful way to get to our parents. So it's good to work with you. Thank you. Throughout the presentation, there were some links. If you saw anything underlined, this presentation, Armando in the back, Armando, did I get it right? Armando in the back has been amazing. He has our financial aid presentation up and ready on our website. It is, so if you go to New Rochelle High School and you go to departments, and then you go to guidance, and then you go to presentations. You writing this down? You need a map. You will find all our presentations of financial aid. The actual the video is on there and the PowerPoint. And Armando, I'm sure, will get this up for all of us tomorrow on the same in the same area. So the links you can click, and all those resources will be there. Okay, I just wanted to get the word out, and this will be something that you'll hear over and over again. So our district is working on developing something called the Portrait of a Graduate, which is basically going to be a piece of paper, a visual, which is going to show, and this is going to be a process where everyone's voice in the community will hopefully have a say in what we want this portrait of a graduate to look like based on the needs of our New Rochelle students. So there's going to be a lot of people hopefully on committees and working on developing what the skills our students need when they graduate from New Rochelle High School. And based on our mission as a district, valuing our diversity. And it will basically describe, I highlighted this, a set of college and career-ready outcomes, which encompass academic, cultural, emotional, social leadership, life, and employability skills and competencies. So if any parent here wants to be part of this process, Ms. Gonzalez is our district leader who is basically getting this going. And she's asking for help, so we're all kind of presenting this to our communities. If you're interested in being part of this process, please reach out to her. And finally, no one is allowed to leave until you fill out our survey, giving us some feedback about tonight. We know we're always a work in progress. We know that there's always room for improvement. We know this, and I've been doing this for a long time. And I'm always trying to improve. So your feedback to us is crucial. So I tried to move into the 21st century, and I'm hoping this works. I did test it. Mr. Zimmerman tested it. So if you go on your phone and you go to pollev.com, not complicated, / Leah Lugavinia Freitas 217. Once you get through that, you'll only have 4 questions to answer. So it'll take you no time. And that's our way of really collecting data and figuring out, you know, how we can improve as a department. So if you can't get there today, but I really would like you to fill out now.
Yes, that's exactly what I was gonna do next. But I want you to fill out my survey. All right, Q and A. Counselors, join me, por favor. Questions? Yes, I saw her. I should.
If you look at Navia, look at the schools that the kid is applying to, if they're already applying. And it says for transcript not requested. Does that mean that the child hasn't gone to the counselor and submitted the form, or does that mean the school hasn't come to you? So the child who said they already.
No, as long as we get the transcript request, we don't take the electronic request, and it doesn't matter. So you could just totally disregard that. As long as we have that transcript request, we go and manually send it through Naviance.
How do we know if you got the transcript? If you just, student just has to say it.
Yeah, and then they trust us to get it in there. That's basically the system, but we got it.
And then once we submit that, then the student can see, right, they can look at either the schools have portals, or they can see in the portal that the college has received it. Sometimes they'll get emails and say it's missing. But we can also see on our end, so like as soon as I hit submit, I can see, okay, this number of documents went to, Binghamton, Tulane, Boston University, double check.
I will also add to that, sometimes I'll have students that said, oh, why is my transcript not sent? I just got an email from the school. It takes time for them to get their data where it's supposed to be. And I'll come in this and show the student and look, here, it's sent right here. So don't hit absolute panic mode if you get an email that says your transcript's not sent, but definitely check with your counselor once again. But it's totally possible that it's there and they say it's not.
To follow up, you said that you cannot send this to schools. Right? So that some schools say they will accept the electronic scores. Can you explain the?
So we just wouldn't have access to the scores, right? Because where the score is located, they're on College Board, they're on ACT.org. So we wouldn't have the.
So I'm sure you can as well.
But the colleges need the actual score report, and so we don't have that.
Yeah.
Your private information, that belongs to your student. So we wouldn't necessarily have the right to disclose that information without.
The other thing too is some schools don't necessarily need the official score. Some will let you self-report, and then it's like an honor system essentially. And when you get accepted, obviously you have to send your scores if you're going to go there. And then if they don't match what you said, you may run into a little issue with that acceptance. You want to speak about your role?
So I'm really the liaison with the colleges and the students. I'm more, for better or lack, I'm the event planner. I bring in all the colleges. I work with the students in understanding what the colleges are talking about. I do all the college visits. I do the college fair in the spring. I will also assist the counselors with students who need a little more hand-holding with their college applications and things like that. I'm sort of a resource for the counselors. But the counselors will actually work with your student directly on their, for a better way of putting it, packaging the student for the college process.
That's it.
I mean, specifically, like if you're a student in here that does need help with their application, they're having a hard time with it, just come and see us as counselors. Like, we're willing to sit down with you and take you from A to Z if you need it. Not everybody in here needs that, but we don't know what you need until you tell us.
And students can come to me and after the college seasons. Right now, we have a lot of colleges coming in, and I work with them as well. And then I would just like to add another big piece of this Rebecca is updating all the scholarship information in Naviance. And so that
Big
is
piece.
really important, like the heavy scholarship application season, I'd say is probably like December to March.
Really January to April.
January to
Once
April.
they're early access.
Just, I post scholarships, they're more local.
on Naviance, but right now there's only a few there because they really become more active in January.
And I'll add to that, and just in regards to the scholarships, you have to apply to them, right? You're not gonna get any money if you don't apply for them. And I know for some students, sometimes they require an additional essay or this, that, right? It's worth taking your shot. I had a student last year that had like 15 grand in outside scholarships. And they were small scholarships that kept adding up and adding up, but it's because they applied to everything. Wanna go back first? Back first?
One of you doing class rankings, you might not be possible. But also, my son has told me that the Naviance and the Common App have the same school email.
To match?
When
They have to
you,
match.
no, as long, so when you match them, okay, you match Naviance and Common App, you need to enter the email that you use on the Common Application. But they do not need to be the same.
They don't have to be in there.
Yeah, they don't, in fact, I encourage my students oftentimes not to use the NRED,
Yep.
because sometimes with the firewall, I don't know if that's a
Yeah,
term, I'm not a tech person, that sometimes, so by the time they're seniors, supposedly colleges and outside people should be able to email them, but I have seen a few students where they have not, the
Yeah.
colleges have not been able to email them, so that's.
Okay, email the Common
Yes.
App and Naviance.
Perfect,
Yeah,
yep, you can-
absolutely.
And then
The class rankings.
do.
No class rank.
So I don't know that, yeah.
And if you need more details, please reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to go over any additional information. But we have stopped doing class ranking last year. We're going to continue practice until further notice. So whoever needs any additional information regarding the process, why we're doing that, or what are the benefits to the student in general, I'd be more than happy to answer those questions. So please reach out to my office and I can definitely answer those questions.
And what happens with like Binghamton or all the SUNYs where there's a special scholarship only for the top 10%? No one in the school.
No, we,
No, that's
they still,
different.
yeah,
How
we
would
still
you
have
know?
that, we still have that, so,
Yes.
yeah.
How
So
would you know? if you're the top 10%?
we identify those students, so that absolutely, we have many
When is
students,
that?
that is like, is that?
I know it happened on time, because I had 2 students that
Yeah.
got that specific scholarship.
I believe
So we make it work.
The starting of last year that they get notified, and then there's some paperwork to fill out. So we're still able to do that, we're just, we don't release the ranks, we're not rankings, we're not releasing that to colleges. We're just we're reporting, class size of 802, and they report their reading.
They also know the highest GPA and your student's GPA, so they can figure it out as well.
When does students start to get on Naviance here?
So they are supposed to get on in middle school. I don't know, I can't speak to the middle school right now, but I do know that counselors go into the 9th grade classes and get them on Naviance. So we typically do a portfolio of lessons. Not every counselor does every lesson, but we start them up and students are supposed to kind of finish them out as they go along once they've been introduced to Naviance. And then we use it just at different times. At sophomore year, we've done in the past, like a career assessment inventory. Junior year, I use it specifically in my junior groups. I get my students reacquainted with it because it's not necessarily always used by every student. So we got to kind of reintroduce in that junior year, make sure everybody's using it. Yeah, and if he doesn't have the password, because there is an issue, there was students were using single sign-on previously. Okay, now they can again, for a hot minute, you weren't able to do that, so, but if they're not able to sign on, have them see the counselor, they could get them set up.
Yeah, we're actually all back to single sign-on. Unless there's.
So the short answer is you have to start the Common App, finish the education section, go to the FERPA waiver, sign the FERPA waiver, right? And you have to then log into Naviance, you have to go to colleges I'm applying to, okay? Don't write this down, and then you go to colleges I'm applying to, and you press the match button, you sign into your Common App, and that's how it's done.
Or
Go-
come to see your counselor.
I was just gonna say, I have students come to my office all the time and get it done. Go see your counselor tomorrow, get it done.
I know I was a little confused with each night, what is taking place. So my question is probably with regarding the financial aid process, parents' responsibility in filling out, but it's awesome. Where are we going to get this?
You want me to repeat?
Okay, so FAFSA is completely separate. It has nothing to do with us at all. So FAFSA and then other financial aid documents, or FAFSA is a federal government document, is from the United States government. And if you do anything that's not a .gov, it's the wrong website. So it's studentaid.gov. And it is your financial information, your students' financial information, but generally speaking, 99% of the time, it is about the parents, guardians' financial information. What they've done in recent years, which is good, is that it is now open as of October 1st, so that you can start filling it out now. And then as the applications go, the financial aid information will be there, so everything can be evaluated at the same time. The other piece of it is there is the linking tool to your tax returns, which eliminates a lot of the detail work that has to be done into it, so it makes it somewhat easier. Beyond that, there is something called the CSS profile, which is a private application through College Board. Only a very select number of schools actually use it. It's typically the very high-end private schools. It is used so that they can evaluate. It's a much deeper dive into your financial situation. And it is used so they can give institutional money.
So there's nothing we need to connect from.
No. This is all, I have to tell you, it's really all on you.
And the entire presentation from last night is on our website.
I have two questions. I have two graduates, and it would really be helpful if all this information is like in a booklet, like print. So we could reference all this instead of calling you guys a couple of that job, because the kids should know this. I hope they have it somewhere. The seniors should really have this already. It should be asking how do I match. So just to throw that out there. But my real question is the fall college visit. It seems like only the seniors are invited. My junior was told if you have a free class, you go. But we're still trying to figure out where to apply. And if you wait till next October, then to meet the schools, it's like you should be filling out your application by now if you're a senior. I'm wondering what the goal is. Is it just so the seniors can say, hi, I applied, nice to meet you, please read my application. I want to come to this school.
We're gonna change that because I agree with you completely, that juniors should be allowed to. I need to work with someone by the name of Dr. Artiles on that. Yes, but thank you, I agree with you.
And then just to speak to, so last year during the junior conferences, students, and they received it electronically, but there was a junior packet. And then during the senior meeting this year, we did give out.
We went over it again.
Information. And then, all the counselors have Google Classrooms that the seniors have access to, where documents are there. So hopefully, I mean, we're always open to feedback and suggestions, but hopefully that's kind of essential.
Sorry, one more. Well, last year because COVID it was virtual, we had to just officers come from different schools and explain about their, well, maybe coming in person this year.
Well, we are going to be, I'm planning that we are having our college fair. Right now, I believe it's scheduled the first week of April. The college night, I think we're discussing the panel night. We haven't quite figured that out yet.
We haven't talked about it at all. We will.
Quick question. Can you talk about DOP programs and easy way to navigate where schools have DOP programs?
That's a, thank you for, that's a, yeah.
So in terms of EOP is a little bit more of an intricate process, and I do find that when I work with students, the biggest thing is first identifying yourself as an EOP student. Because most times when you ask a student, how much do your parents make, right? It's a program for low income students. It typically it does lower the admission requirement ever so slightly, right, for different SUNY campuses. There's EOP right at SUNY, there's SEEK at CUNY, and there's HEOP at specific private schools, right? Now, the financial criteria is the same at every school, right? And there's a guideline that's listed based on how many people live in your household, right? And how much the people who work in that household make, right? The guardians of the student, right? Now, with EOP specifically, if there is a worksheet actually through SUNY that has all of the EOP campuses listed, as well as the typical GPA and SAT and ACT scores, right? But just going into EOP also requires the EOP application. And then the application itself is not so difficult, but there's a lot of financial forms that need to be given to the school that you're interested in for EOP.
Just one other thing, this is really only pertains to, EOP only pertains to New York State and New York City public schools, public colleges and universities. HEOP is some private colleges in New York State, but this is only a New York State program.
Yeah, and you obviously you live in New York State, so you get to access those programs.
You mentioned that student,
if the student is applying to other schools, then they can also include SUNY. If they're only applying to SUNY, then recommendation is to use the SUNY.
So
They should apply during that timeline when they're free.
So now with students that get free or reduced lunch, like, and again, if you're applying to other schools outside of just the SUNY, I encourage my students to use the Common App, because again, almost 1,000 colleges take it. And with a student that has free or reduced lunch, you get free applications, and it's really simple. So there's not any paperwork after. So that's why I like the Common App for that.
So with that, please, with the lunch application, even if you feel that you're not eligible, please complete it. Please, just get it done, submit it, it doesn't matter, we'll let you know. Because you never know. Those parameters, they change consistently. So the free or reduced lunch application, if you have not, most likely your high schooler is not going to bring it home. They don't want it, they don't want to touch it. But it's critical, it's important. It can definitely give you a lot of information or open access to those free applications. Even though when you feel that you're not going to be eligible, so if you don't have it, let us know. We make sure go on the website. There's a link in there as well. Get it done. It's really helpful.
Program, is there an opportunity to show website? They have? Yes.
So the Excelsior Scholarship is a New York State scholarship that was put into existence about 5 years ago. It only pertains to SUNYs and CUNYs, New York State public institutions and New York City public institutions. And what it does is it allows for families that make under $125,000 a year to potentially have their student go to school with no tuition. Now, that being said, so the tuition on average, really for the most part, at all SUNYs and CUNYs is about $7,000 to $8,000 a year. It's at the SUNYs, the living expenses are actually what jack it up. What this does is it goes on top of regular financial aid, but there are lots of caveats to this. So the caveats are the student must remain in school for straight 4 years, take a full course load, like 12 to 15 credits, not have any interruption of their education, and then live in New York and work in New York for the following 4 years. So that is the other side of that is, if you get that scholarship and something happens, and this doesn't, it reverts to an extremely low interest loan, like a 0 or 1% loan. So it's not as much of a risk as it sounds, but this is the other piece of it. This only goes live April and May of senior year. They only want to see the application for the school the student is applying for. It's not like FAFSA where you can put in all the schools they're applying to. It is the school they are intending to attend. And therefore, that application doesn't open. Last year, it didn't open up till May. So, but the SUNYs and CUNYs will sometimes bulk that in theory into their financial aid package, knowing that you might want to apply for it.
First, thank you for what seems to be both a broad and niche amount of information. Continue on the theme of before. So secret, another producers back in freshmen, because the world shut down, they were out of letter. That being said, go a little more in depth. Two areas, so shut down extracurriculars that colleges are looking for, because a lot of them are behind curve. And also we started talking about on the academic side, something other than just being couple of kids at the top, so they got 10% or other things like that. Regulars and some of these academic areas.
So in terms of the extracurriculars, and I've listened to over 100 representatives talk about this, they do understand that students were not able to participate in extracurricular activities. That's why they say, are there things they did at home? Did they take up a hobby? Did they babysit? Did they take care of a sibling? Did they cook for the family? Did they have to have a job because they needed to have the family? They want to see whatever the student did. There's no specific magic to this. And I think that's the thing I really like to impress upon families. Every student is individual, every school is an individual. There is no specific formula for this process. It is who your kid is, who your family is, and then the school that is the right fit for your student. So the idea is put in whatever they did. Put in all of their activities that they did. It's not going to hurt them. I'm not quite sure about the academic question. Well, there are tons of scholarships. There are tons of scholarships. A good place to look is a place called FastWeb that you put in your own specific information, and then we put out more local things. And then the schools, oh, that's the other piece. Schools, most schools, not all, most schools give them what's called merit scholarships, merit academic. So if your student has grades that are high for that particular school, they could get many thousands of dollars. Those are actually the biggest chunks, the merit scholarships. But again, it's school dependent. It depends on the school.
I think another big piece to keep in mind for helping you that everyone wants to do that is that's when the AP classes, the college classes, like so one of my graduates last year came to visit today. He's at Binghamton. This is his first year at Binghamton, but he's on sophomore. So many of the classes. And so he can get out of there in 2 years. That's a huge thing.
Thank you guys so much for this amazing presentation. please, you to check in on our social media because we'll have links to all of these presentations and all the colleges that are visiting the schools and all the other updates are on our Instagram and our social media, Facebook handles.